Hey everybody, hope you are all happy and healthy out there, and I hope this video can be a slight distraction to all the kind of craziness going on in the world right now. But as I promised, this video is all about my top 10 favorite solo Paul McCartney songs. Now, here were the requirements for this top 10 list here. They had to be songs that Paul McCartney did not record with the Beatles. That was the only requirement. So anything from his solo albums to his work with Wings to some of his collaborations with like Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson, and maybe even some Fireman stuff. Those are the only requirements for this list. Now the other thing is that I didn't rank these. These are just my top 10 because having to rank these 1 through 10 would just be impossible because it was already almost impossible for me to have to choose just 10 Paul McCartney songs as my 10 favorite, because he's got so many amazing songs. So anyway, these are my top 10 favorites. I would love to hear what your top 10 favorites are in the comments below, so please list those. And some of these might be a little bit of a surprise to you, so let's get right into it. And by the way, I have a list. So here we go. The first song is a song from his debut solo album titled McCartney, and that song is called Every Night. Now, Every Night is an acoustic song, and it's just such a pure Paul McCartney song. It's so catchy. Paul sings it amazingly well. The instruments are played brilliantly, and it's just a song that I find myself playing on guitar a lot. I also find myself just like having that song stuck in my head and humming it around the house. It's such a wonderful, wonderful song, and it really sums up the McCartney album, in my opinion, because it's very much a whimsical kind of song, but at the same time, there's a little bit of kind of melancholy in there as well. So just a great, great Paul McCartney song, and one of my favorites from an album that I love so much, McCartney. So that's my first song, Every Night. The next song, now this might be a little bit of a surprise. This is the newest song that I've chosen for my list here. This is a song called Only Mama Knows, and it's from Paul McCartney's Memory Almost Full album. Now, I don't have that album on vinyl. It's very, very hard to find. It's very, very expensive to find. But I do have that song on vinyl on the Paul McCartney compilation, Pure McCartney. So if you wanted to pick up Only Mama Knows and get it on vinyl, you can get it on here. It happens to be on the last side of the last record, side 8, Only Mama Knows. By the way, I love this compilation, Pure McCartney. It's really cool, really well put together, and it sounds really, really good as well. So very, very cool compilation if you can pick it up. So Only Mama Knows is just, to me, the really ultimate Paul McCartney pop rock song. So it's got a great riff. It's very much in the same vein as like Jet or Junior's Farm, one of those like Wings 1970s rockers. And Only Mama Knows really could have been on any of Wings' album, and it would have fit in perfectly. It starts out with a string section as well, which is really cool. And it's just got a great Paul McCartney vocal. It's just a rockin' song, and I really love that song a lot. In fact, it's my favorite song from Memory Almost Full. By the way, Memory Almost Full is one of those Paul McCartney albums that really grew on me over time. When it first came out, I didn't really love it right away. But over time, when I'll listen to it on CD, I really like it more and more. It's such a great, great album. And Only Mama Knows is definitely one of the best songs on the album, in my opinion. Another great thing about Only Mama Knows is that Paul has played this song live a bunch of times. He doesn't play it live anymore, but he's played it live. Like when Memory Almost Full, the album came out, he played Only Mama Knows a lot, and he sounds great. Almost all the live performances I've seen of him doing Only Mama Knows are so top-notch and great. I highly recommend checking those out on YouTube because they're really, really cool. So Only Mama Knows is another song in my top 10 Paul McCartney songs. I just love that tune. Okay, the next song. This is a song from Paul McCartney and Wings' album Venus and Mars. And the song is Listen to What the Man Said. Listen to What the Man Said might be in my opinion, the catchiest song Paul has ever written outside of the Beatles. It is such a catchy song. When I first heard Listen What the Man Said, I think I was in high school when I first heard it, or when I was aware that it was Paul McCartney. It was just a song that I instantly was obsessed with. I fell in love with it. I couldn't get enough of it. It was so good, so catchy. It's got such a slick recording, and it's just really a fantastic Paul McCartney song. And in my opinion, maybe an underrated Paul McCartney song, because it's so catchy, it's so good, and it's just, it's got that magic about it. And it's definitely my favorite song on Venus and Mars. And I love Venus and Mars. It's a very, very fine album. But I think Listen What the Man Said is definitely the best song on the album. And just one of my favorite Paul McCartney songs. So there you go. Moving on here. Okay, this next song is a bit of an oddity as well. Not that Listen What the Man Said was an oddity, but Only Mama Knows, I would say, is a bit of an oddity to have in a top 10 Paul McCartney list. This is a song from Paul McCartney and Wings' album Back to the Egg, which I think is a highly underrated album. This is a very, very cool album, very, very weird album, very outside of the norm for a Paul McCartney album, in my opinion. But anyway, that's for a whole nother video. But the song I chose is a song called Arrow Through Me. And it's a very, it's a song that has a bunch of synthesizers, but it's such a catchy, slick Paul McCartney song. And it's one of the songs that has a lot of emotional meaning for me, because it's a song that my dad showed me when I was probably in my teenage years. And he played it for me, and he was like, you might like the song. It's kind of a weird Paul McCartney song. And I just instantly loved it and wanted to know, what album it was on and all that kind of stuff. So then I got Back to the Egg, and then that got me into the Back to the Egg album, is because I was so obsessed with the Arrow Through Me song. So Arrow Through Me is an excellent Paul McCartney tune. And it's just one of those Paul McCartney songs that the moment you hear it, you just know it's so great. At least for me, when I first heard it, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable how amazing the song is. And Paul McCartney has that ability, as I'm sure all of you know and all of you have experienced. But when you hear a new Paul McCartney song and it just gets you right away, that's such a magic ability, I think, in a songwriter. There's very few songwriters that can do that to me. Paul McCartney is one, Brian Wilson is one, Bob Dylan is one, Lindsey Buckingham, people like that, Joni Mitchell, those types of songwriters where it's like you hear something and it just gets you. And Paul is definitely one of those. So Arrow Through Me, excellent song. On Back to the Egg. Okay, so the next song I chose is a song off of the Ram album. Now, it was very hard for me not to choose about 5 songs on Ram, but I tried to limit myself to just one song from Ram. And the song I chose is a song called Dear Boy. Now, Dear Boy is a piano song that has just tons and tons of harmonies from Paul and Linda, and they are so lush and just excellent. On top of the harmonies being excellent, the song is so great. I love the way Paul sings it. I love the lyrics, and it's just a very cool, kind of biting Paul McCartney song. And of course, famously, John Lennon thought this song was about him and Yoko. But really, Paul later went on to say that the song Dear Boy actually was written about Linda McCartney, his wife, Linda's first husband, who they got divorced, but they actually had a child together, Heather, that Paul later adopted. But Paul wrote the song Dear Boy about Linda's first husband and kind of saying to him, like, you made a mistake. Like, how'd you miss out on Linda? Like, you didn't see how great she was, kind of a thing. So anyway, Dear Boy is just an excellent song. I love it so much. It's a song that I can actually officially say it changed my life. I remember exactly where I was when I heard Dear Boy. I was in high school, and I got a hold of my dad's copy of Ram that he had on vinyl, and I remember listening to Dear Boy, and it just blew me away. I couldn't believe how amazing it was. It was like it had all the elements of of everything I loved about music in one song, and it just packed a punch on me. And I remember for the next like couple of weeks or months going to class and having that song in my head constantly over and over again. But it wasn't annoying to me. I just loved it. And I would just constantly play it in my head and try to play it from the beginning to the end and see if I could remember the whole thing. Just a song that I absolutely loved and changed my life. So, Dear Boy from the Ram album. Excellent. By the way, the whole Ram album, great. But I talk about Ram a lot, so I won't go on and on. Okay, the next song I decided to pick for my top 10 Paul McCartney songs. This is another album that it was hard to choose just one song, but I did limit myself to it. And the song I chose is a song called Jet. Now, Jet, of course, is a very, very famous Paul McCartney song, but I just love Jet. I love the riff. I love the way Paul sings it. His voice is absolutely just so raw and just wonderful. And it's just probably the best solo Paul McCartney rocker that he ever released, in my opinion. Such a cool song. The lyrics are so weird and just great. And I just love it. And in fact, my band, Anchor Bear, we play Jet all the time live. It's one of the few cover songs we do. So let me explain that, by the way. So sometimes we play like 3-hour shows. Like there's some places that you want to play for like 3 hours. For those shows, you have to play a lot of covers mixed in with the originals, obviously, because it's hard to play 3 hours of originals. But there are shows where sometimes we just play for like 45 minutes and we play all of our original songs, but we usually include at least one cover. And most of the time, we always play Jet because we love it so much. It's so much fun to play. And a lot of people will come up to us and be like, wow, Jet is such a great song. That's such a cool song. It's cool you guys cover that. So it's just a song that I love so much, and I love playing it, and I love listening to it, and I never get tired of it. So Jet is the song I'm choosing for one of my top 10 Paul McCartney songs. Now, another song I'm choosing is a song that is actually kind of a bit of a rarity, and it's a song called Soily, and it appears on the Paul McCartney Archive Collection Venus and Mars album. It's a bonus track, so it happens to be on side 4, and it is from the One Hand Clapping television show that Wings did that they actually never released, but it was released later, of course, for the Paul McCartney Archive Collection. And of course, Soily also appeared on Wings Over America, a live version of it. But the version that I love the most is on this Venus and Mars Paul McCartney Archive Edition. And it is such a rocker. It's very, very similar to Jet. And it's also very similar to Only Mama Knows. So maybe I'm revealing a little bit about what I love about Paul McCartney. But those 3 songs, Only Mama Knows, Jet, and Soily, are just amazing Paul McCartney rockers. And Soily is just a very weird song, but it's so great. And the live version that is featured on this Venus and Mars album, deluxe edition, or the McCartney Archive Edition, is so great. It's so raw. It's so powerful. And I just love it so much. Now, there's also another live version of Soily that was released when they did when Red Rose Speedway and... Is an ambulance going by? There it goes. When Red Rose Speedway and Wings Wildlife were released for the Paul McCartney Archive Edition, they also released that, like the Wings, the Wings over Europe or whatever, where it has a bunch of live recordings. And Soily is also featured in that collection as well. So it's been released a couple of times, but never an official studio recording of it. Although it's rumored that it was recorded, I think during the Red Rose Speedway sessions, I believe. But anyway, I just love the song Soily. If you haven't heard it, check it out, especially the version on the Venus and Mars Paul McCartney Archive Edition. Excellent. Okay, the next song is a song from the Tug of War album, and it happens to be the title track, Tug of War. Tug of War is an epic song, and it's such a classic Paul McCartney. By the way, I'm going to say that a million times. These are all classic Paul McCartney songs, in my opinion. But Tug of War is kind of a song. it just keeps building and building and building until it gets to this middle part, which is so epic and excellent. And I just love the way Paul sings it and performs it. And it's just an amazing piece of work, in my opinion. And the whole Tug of War album is an amazing piece of work. But the actual song Tug of War is so brilliant. And it's a song I've loved for such a long time. And it was actually produced by George Martin and engineered by Jeff Emmerich. So it's got the Beatle production team working on it. And just an excellent, excellent song. I'm sure all of you have heard Tug of War. If you haven't, you should check it out because it's just great. And that's why it's in my top 10 Paul McCartney songs. Tug of War. Okay, next song. This was released as a single, and it was recorded during the Ram sessions. This next song I chose is a song called Another Day. So Another Day was released only as a single, but it, of course, eventually found release on the Wings' Greatest album. Another Day is on there. I think it's on there. I could be wrong about that, but I think it is. It was also on Paul McCartney's compilation album called All the Best. And then it was later on the Ram Paul McCartney Archive edition. It's on that one as well. And it also appears on the Pure McCartney compilation as well. So Another Day is just a very, very catchy Paul McCartney song. And it was a song that he actually wrote while he was still in the Beatles. And there are some bootleg versions of Paul playing Another Day during the Let It Be Get Back sessions that are interesting to hear. It's just him playing it on piano. But Another Day is just such a classic piece of McCartney, so melodic. The bass playing is excellent. By the way, the bass playing on Another Day is so loud in the mix, and I love it. Also has great harmonies by Linda McCartney as well, as another siren goes by. That's just part of the magic of these videos. As I always say, by the way, I live on like a main street, so there's a lot of activity going on out there right now. Anyway, back to Paul McCartney. So Another Day, it's just a great, great song, and one of my favorite Paul McCartney singles, and it was a #1 single for Paul. So it's a big song for Paul, and it's a big song to me. I love it so much. I listen to it a lot, by the way. Great song, Another Day. And the last song that I chose from my top 10 Paul McCartney songs is a song that Paul has never officially released, but I love it so much. It is so catchy and so great. It's a song that appears on this bootleg called Cold Cuts, and it's a song called Water Spout. Now, Water Spout was recorded during the London Town sessions, and it's kind of a bit of a reggae type song. It has a little bit of a Obla Di Obla Da vibe about it, but it's way more melodic than Obla Di Obla Da. And it's just a very, very cool Paul McCartney song that I don't understand why he didn't release on the London Town album, because it would have made London Town that much better, in my opinion. It's a very unique song. It's a very kind of funky song in a weird way. And it's just a very, very cool song and one of my favorites. So if you haven't heard Water Spout, check it out. It's on YouTube. Hopefully when they finally put out a London Town edition for the Paul McCartney Archive collection, they will include a really much better version of Water Spout on there. Because the version that's on this bootleg, while it sounds, the song is great, the quality of the recording is pretty poor. But Water Spout is an excellent Paul McCartney song. So you haven't heard Water Spout, check it out because it is great. So those are my top 10 Paul McCartney solo songs. I didn't choose like a bunch of insanely classic songs like Maybe I'm Amazed or Silly Love Songs or Live and Let Die or Band on the Run or Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. Although I love those songs, they didn't make my top 10 list. And by the way, making a top 10 list, like I said, from Paul McCartney, almost impossible because I pretty much love everything he's ever put out. So anyway, those are my top 10 songs. I would love to know what your top 10 Paul McCartney songs are. And hey, Stay tuned for more videos because they are on the way. Stay tuned for more records I will be listing on my website, needleneedsvinyl.com. We've got some more Beatle records coming, including Beatles for Sale, including Let It Be, and some solo Beatles stuff. And of course, as always, just more records by all kinds of artists, not just the Beatles. So check out the website, needleneedsvinyl.com, and stay tuned for more videos. So we'll see you later. Bye for now.